Wait, who's in the cards? I'm sorry. Okay. Now, many of you probably sitting here remember being in grade school, like learning cursive, having those weird Q's and X, Y, and Z's. Who remembers that? I know I do. I hated them. But just remember that show. Just remember how challenging it was. But fast forward 10, 15 years, and you guys are sitting here before me. Who writes in cursive now? Who really does? Probably you guys don't even know how to remember how to write in cursive, or even know how to begin where the line starts or where it even ends. But fear not, ladies and gentlemen, children do learn cursive today. But according to journalist Megan Downs of Florida USA in a 2009 article, cursive is still widely taught in U.S. public and private elementary schools, according to a 2007 nationwide study on handwriting instruction by Vanderbilt University. It surveyed a random sampling of about 200 teachers in grades 1 through 3 in 50 states. So yes, our kids are still being subjected to these challenging lessons even in the 21st century. However, some schools are still debating whether or not to keep that curriculum in the schools. Now, in this day and age, making cursive mandatory in elementary schools is useless, and I feel that as computers are entering elementary schools at a fast rate, the emphasis of cursive is pointless. And so, in my argument, I'll be discussing those 2 points. Now, earlier I mentioned that computers in the classroom are replacing the pencil and paper at a faster rate. And the reason this exists is because our society has quickly become dependent on technology. Now, from personal experience, I am a tutor at an elementary school in High Grove in Riverside, and I have a few kids who are in 3rd and 4th grade, and they constantly have to have their spelling or their sentence structures in cursive. And they're always complaining and whining, like, oh, why can't we do this on the computer, or why can't I just, do it at home? Why do I have to do it in cursive? Why can't I do it in print? And I usually hear that on the day-to-day, like I heard today. But for our younger generation, that made me think, for our younger generations, elementary school teaching needs to be focused on the here and now and not on the historical curriculum of cursive. They don't need it. They don't need it now. They're probably not going to use it in the future based on our dependence on technology. So, in other words, with the interest of computers, there is no use for cursive. Now, in a February 2000 article of Newsweek, Jessica Bennett wrote that keyboarding has replaced cursive as a priority in most schools, and most kids don't use it when they have the chance. Like in 2006, just 15% of SAT takers use cursive on the written test, others didn't. Now, in addition, professionalism in the workplace is now primarily based on how many words per minute, or WPM, a person can type instead of how stylized your writing is on a business document. Now, with the advancement of technology, teaching cursive has no purpose in the classroom except to cause unnecessary challenges for our kids and deprive them more of essential skills necessary to succeed in higher education in the real world. Now that I've presented why teaching cursive in the classroom defeats the purpose of having computers in the classroom, I will continue into why teaching cursive is no longer a priority by our teachers. Now, as more emphasis is placed on teaching kids technical writing skills such as grammar, like verb and noun complements, sentence structure, and spelling, there's no wonder cursive has no place in the language arts realm anymore. Instruction has even decreased from 1 hour every day to 15 minutes every day per week in the classroom. Now, in 2008 April issue of eContent magazine, editor-in-chief Michelle Manafee wrote how Ann Trebek, who's an associate professor at Oberlin College in Oberlin, Ohio, and freelance writer, proffered a compelling case for the demise of cursive scripts in the history of writing technology, saying it's time to consign to the trash heap this artificial way of making letters. Now, writing legibly and correctly is more important than writing in a form that can be imitated by a computer, such as the font. Now, in the long run, what's more significant in our kids' writing skills is the ability to express themselves through their choice of words and not by their individual strokes, like this cursive does. Therefore, cursive writing has no merit in the classroom anymore. Now, having heard my argument this evening, I hope you understand our kids deserve to learn skills necessary to further their success in the here and now rather than what used to be, such as cursive and the historical curriculum that goes along with it. Now, as more emphasis is placed on computers and technical writing skills, like I said, spelling and grammar and such, there's no need to place a high or even any priority to teach cursive anymore.
All right. I didn't think that the proposition was as clearly highlighted as it needed to be, but you did have a nice greeting at the beginning of the speech. You did have a good preview. You set up what the two main supporting points were going to be. I thought there was good information about why there is some controversy on this when you talk about how it is substantially continued to be taught in the schools. I do think you need to develop a little bit more some information about the lack of necessity for cursive rather than just dismissing it because it's not widely used. Is there any defense of cursive? Is it just a lingering tradition, sort of like summer break is a lingering tradition from our agricultural roots, and we don't really need to have a summer break anymore. We could have, 12-month school sort of system. I'm not exactly sure if there's any pedagogical justification used for cursive. If there is, it would have maybe been good to include a point to address those issues as kind of a potential rebuttal argument. I like the evidence that you presented for the most part, although a couple of places it sounded a little conclusive or conclusionary, but I did like the statistic that you had, for instance, on the number of students who actually use cursive when writing their answers on the SAT. Now, one of the things that isn't indicated is whether or not their answers were any better. That would have been really useful if we knew that their answers made no difference whether they were written in cursive or whether they were done in print, or I guess that I don't know if they can use a computer in writing their answers on the SAT. That's not really explained. You did a good job citing your sources while you're presenting it. I thought you had very clear transition when you went from the first to the second point. You are rushing the presentation. You need to slow down a little bit because sometimes, I think that's why the proposition got a little swallowed up, because I think you've got the proposition in there, but you're rushing in the first part of the speech to get to what you're saying, and I just don't think it comes out as clearly as it could. So if you could pace yourself a little bit more, I think you'd be okay. And again, you have plenty of time. It's only 4.5 minutes, so you've got plenty of time to slow down and let people kind of grasp the argument as you're presenting it. All right, thank you.